What if the most terrifying character in your favorite cozy horror comic wasn't entirely fictional? In Beneath the Trees, Samantha Strong is the picture of suburban charm, running her family's hardware store, attending community events, while also meticulously dismembering her victims before burying them in paint cans deep in the woods. Her dual life is chilling, yes, but it's also eerily familiar to anyone who studied real-life serial killers. Because here's the thing. Sam may be a bear in a flannel shirt, but her methods, her mentality, and even her urge to kill draw striking parallels to some of the most cold-blooded murderers in criminal history. So welcome back to Comic Drops, where in this video we're going to take a hard look at 4 real-life serial killers: Israel Keyes, Dennis Nilsen, Dorothea Puente, and Dennis Rader, the infamous BTK killer, and compare their behaviors, their dispositions, and their methods to Sam's carefully constructed persona. These aren't just surface level similarities. We're deep diving into the psychology, the rituals, and the horrifyingly calculated lives that they led, and how each of them have shaped the twisted soul of Samantha Strong. Because if art imitates life, and life imitates art, what kind of life gave rise to the character of Samantha Strong? Stay tuned to find out. Israel Keyes. Long before he took a life, Keyes buried tools. Buckets filled with weapons, gloves, zip ties, and even plastic sheeting. Hidden across the country, just waiting. He once said, "I would go to different parts of the country, and I would plan everything out. I had everything I needed in the kill kit: shovels, Drano, garbage bags, money, maybe even a gun." And in Rite of Spring, we see Sam doing the exact same thing. She packs her Bronco like she's going on a camping trip. Tents, tools, and containers, all under the guise of a holiday getaway. But her real destination is death. And just like Keyes, Sam never kills close to home. You can't be tied to any one victim. You have to move around. You have to make it random, said Keyes. That randomness made Keyes almost impossible to catch, and it's what allows Sam to murder for decades without raising suspicion in her hometown of Woodbrook. And Keyes didn't kill out of rage either. There were no voices in his head, no signature or trophy. His motivation? An urge that demanded to be fed, a quiet, gnawing urge. It's like, when I get that feeling, I've got to act on it. I get tired of resisting it, he said. Sam echoes that same compulsion in Rite of Spring when she says, "I can feel myself on the edge of getting desperate. Feels easier than ever to slip up." And slip up she will. Just like Keyes, the longer she resists the urge, the more chaotic her need becomes. It's not about revenge or lust. It's about the calm that comes after the kill. The same twisted serenity that Keyes described in his interviews. Israel Keyes lived a shockingly ordinary life and was the quiet one next door. He was a contractor, a father, a neighbor. No red flags whatsoever. But in his own words, I was 2 different people, basically. The one that was out there doing all these normal things, and the one that did what I had to do. That statement could just as easily describe Sam. And in Beneath the Trees, Sam is the personification of middle-class normalcy. She holds dinner parties, she knows her neighbors, she goes to community events, all while hiding an ice-cold, blood-soaked secret under her charming exterior. And like Keyes, her mask is flawless. And like Keyes, she knows it's a mask. What makes Keyes especially terrifying isn't just what he did. It's how he did it, with zero emotion. He had no preference for victims, only precision, detachment, and the inevitability of death. I was meticulous. I didn't have a victim type. I picked people at random because that's how you avoid detection. Now compare that to Sam. Her victims are random citizens in the city, People who stumble into her path at the wrong time, in the wrong place, outside of Woodbrook. And just like Keyes, she views murder as a kind of dark necessity. Once you start down that road, it's hard to stop. It's a high that normal life doesn't give you. Now, Sam doesn't say this, but it pulses through every panel she's in. From the way she gathers her tools, to the way she dismembers her victims, to the cold urge inside her head, reminding her that she'll never be finished. And consider this quote from Keyes as well that could have been ripped straight from Sam's internal monologue. There's no one to blame but me. And that's the way I wanted it. I was in control. Yes, control. That's the key word that binds these two monsters across fiction and reality. Israel Keyes needed control to feel alive. So does Sam. And while he was eventually caught, Sam still walks free in Woodbrook. For now. The civil servant who quietly killed. Dennis Nilsen was soft-spoken and unassuming. A former police officer turned civil servant, he blended in with London life during the late 1970s and early 80s. Coworkers knew him as helpful and kind, and neighbors rarely gave him a second glance. But behind closed doors at 195 Melrose Avenue, Nilsen had constructed a world where he reigned as judge, jury, and executioner. I cause dreams which cause death, and this is my crime. This quote from Nilsen captures his self-aware delusion. He saw himself as a tragic figure, a quiet monster, not entirely in control. An illusion he cultivated, much like Sam's sugary facade as a hardware store owner and friendly Woodbrook neighbor. Nilsen's methods were horrifyingly methodical. He would invite young men, many of them drifters or homeless individuals, back to his apartment. Sometimes he offered them food, sometimes simply a place to sleep. And then, while they rested, he would drug them and then strangle them with a ligature or drown them, often while they were unconscious. This slow, impersonal form of murder matches Sam's calm brutality perfectly. She prefers a clean kill, a controlled process, rendering victims unconscious before slitting their throats, draining them of blood, and cutting them into pieces with medical-like precision. I couldn't let go of the bodies. They were mine. Nilsen kept the corpses for days or weeks, bathing them, posing them, sometimes even sleeping beside them. He didn't just kill, he prolonged his connection with the dead. Now, Sam doesn't preserve bodies for companionship, but her rituals are the same. Cleaning up, hiding body parts in paint cans, and burying them with care in the woods beneath the trees shows a similar need for control and reverence over the process. Now, Nilsen admitted to killing at least 15 men between 1978 and 1983, though the exact number is still debated. Most were never reported missing. This mirrors Sam's own long track record of killing over decades, with no one ever suspecting her. But his downfall? The plumbing. Nilsen had moved into a new apartment with shared drainage. After months of dismembering victims and attempting to flush the remains, the drains became clogged. A plumber investigating the situation pulled out rotted flesh and tiny fragments of bone from the pipes. When questioned, Nilsen simply responded, "It's a long story. I'll tell you everything." And he did. With chilling calm, he walked police through every detail of his crimes. And Sam, too, nearly slips up and beneath the trees, most notably when Nigel frames her by digging up the paint cans she used to store the body parts of her victims. Her systems, like Nilsen's plumbing, are only sustainable until something breaks or someone meddles in their affairs. Dennis Nilsen didn't kill through rage. He killed to possess and to control. He hated the feeling of abandonment and tried to keep his victims with him, prolonged in death. He was quiet and introspective, but he was deeply disturbed. I am not a monster. I'm a man driven to kill by loneliness. Compare that to Sam's internal voice at Martin's funeral, where she thinks not of the human cost of her murders, but rather logically ponders what grief must feel like for others. She isn't driven by loneliness per se, she's driven by compulsion. But like Nilson, she compartmentalizes her emotions. She functions in society, smiles in public, and murders in secret, all without remorse. The Grandma Next Door, Dorothea Puente. Imagine an elderly woman with perfectly set hair, a tidy home filled with floral wallpaper and lace curtains, offering warm meals and a room to those down on their luck. That was Dorothea Puente. To the outside world in 1980 Sacramento, she was a generous boarding house owner taking in the elderly and the disabled with nowhere else to go. But behind her pleasant smile and oversized glasses, Puente was drugging, murdering, and burying her tenants in the backyard. I used to be a very good person, at one time. This haunting quote from Puente reveals the chilling gap between who she once was, or believed she was, and the predator that she became. Like Sam, she knew how to read people, say the right things, and weaponize trust. Puente didn't kill in bursts of rage or passion. Her method was more methodical. She used sleeping pills, often Dalmine, to drug her victims. Once incapacitated, she either suffocated them or left them to die. And then she would bury the bodies in her garden, keeping meticulous records of their social security checks, which she continued to cash and pocket the money. Sam's methods may be more physical, rendering victims unconscious, slitting their throats, draining them of blood, but the principle is the same. Total control, no mess, no witnesses, no emotional involvement whatsoever. Just calm, deliberate execution. Puente even convinced caseworkers, social workers, and the entire community that nothing was amiss, just as Sam fools the entire town of Woodbrook. She claimed they all died of natural causes. She had her story rehearsed. She counted on charm and decorum to shield her. Sam operates the same way, always anticipating questions, always planning 2 steps ahead, and always wearing her mask. Puente's crimes came to light in 1988 when a missing man named Alvaro Montoya, a mentally disabled tenant of hers, was reported missing by a social worker. When police arrived, Puente acted confused, polite, but helpful. But days later, she fled town in a taxi, and 9 bodies were eventually dug up in her backyard. Puente killed at least 9 people, possibly more. Like Sam, she preyed on the vulnerable. Think about how Sam disposes of the bodies of her victims. She drains them of blood, dismembers them, and places the body parts in paint cans, and then carefully buries them in a grove beneath the trees. Puente also did something similar. She mapped out her yard, planned where each body would go, and then buried them. Both killers acted similarly with how they disposed of the bodies. Perhaps the most unnerving thing about Puente is how much the world wanted to believe she wasn't capable of what she did. She was elderly, she wore dresses and pearls, she baked cookies. She reminded people of their grandmothers. And Sam evokes that same sentiment. She's polite, she wears flannel, she owns a hardware store in town, and she attends community events. But both women use that mask to deceive and disarm others. Samantha Strong and Dorothea Puente share a signature hallmark, the illusion of safety. Their strength lies in how well they disguise their urges around others. Both are women operating in a seemingly nurturing role in their community, and both keep immaculate spaces, Sam's hardware store and Dorothea's home, but that only serves to mask the rot underneath. BTK, the public servant with a private nightmare. Dennis Rader wasn't a drifter, an outcast, or someone lurking in the shadows. He was a husband, a father, a Cub Scout leader, and church council president. He even worked as a compliance officer in Park City, Kansas, enforcing town ordinances and acting as a model citizen. But behind closed doors, he was orchestrating elaborate killings. His crimes spanned from 1974 to 1991, and he wasn't even caught until 2005. Rader's ability to compartmentalize to maintain a normal life while secretly murdering others mirrors Sam's duality perfectly. I actually think I may be possessed by demons. I was dropped on my head as a kid. I have a lot of things that go through my mind. Rder often tried to explain his actions by blaming outside forces, but the truth was simpler. Like Sam, he needed to kill to satisfy an internal urge. And Dennis Rader wasn't a spree killer, he was calculated. He stalked his victims, drew diagrams of their homes, took photos, and kept detailed journals. Before striking, he would learn their routines and choose the moment he would dominate them completely. His method? Binding them, torturing them, and then killing them, often by strangulation. Sounds somewhat familiar? Sam may use more clinical processes, rendering victims unconscious, slitting their throats, draining them of blood, and dismembering their body, but the principle is the same: ritualistic control. Both killers savor the process, not just the result. The monster enters my brain. I will not stop it. It likes to dwell in the dark corners of my psyche. Sam describes a similar compulsion in Preludium, her internal urge building until it must be satisfied through violence. She kills out of this need to calm the chaos inside of her. And Rder kept trophies, photographs, drawings, even stolen items from his victims. And while Sam doesn't seek notoriety, she does keep trophies in her own way. She stores victims' body parts in paint cans and buries them in a secluded grove beneath the trees. Both killers maintain systems of remembrance of their victims, tangible links to their crimes. Even more disturbingly, both Rder and Sam see murder as routine. Sam treats her crimes like household chores, part of her carefully controlled life. Rder too would compartmentalize his wrongdoings, go out for a kill, then return to church or dinner with his family like nothing had ever happened. Sam's greatest strength was her ability to pass as one of the community, polite, helpful, and friendly. Rder had the same mask. Neighbors described him as ordinary and church-going. No one suspected the man handing out citations for unkempt lawns was the monster who murdered 10 people. He even held his own daughter's newborn child the same week he killed his final victim. That's how deeply embedded his facade was. I'm a pretty nice guy. I do some mean things. This haunting contradiction captures Sam perfectly. Her cheerful tone at community events masks the monstrous acts she commits while traveling to the city or camping. She can run her hardware store and stab someone in the neck without breaking character whatsoever. Experts diagnosed Rder with antisocial personality disorder with narcissistic traits. Sound familiar? Especially because he felt entitled to kill and enjoyed controlling others. He showed no remorse, even joking with investigators after his arrest. I actually think it's a good thing I was caught. I'm not sure I could have stopped. Sam's character in Beneath the Trees echoes this perfectly. She's not searching for a cure or redemption. She simply tries to manage her urge, and when someone threatens that balance like Nigel, she strikes back with brutal efficiency. The reason Dennis Rader is such a perfect parallel to Sam lies in the structure and control they both employ. They don't just kill, they stage murders, plan them with blueprints and backup plans. Their greatest fear isn't getting caught, it's losing control. And just like Sam, Rader believed he was smarter than everyone else, that he could outmaneuver police, society, and even time itself. And for years, he did. But as Rite of Spring hints with Sam's fraying composure, even the most meticulous monsters can eventually make a mistake. So what makes Sam from Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees so chilling? It's that she echoes real-life monsters. Israel Keyes' methodical prep, Dennis Nilsen's domestic cruelty, Dorothea Puente's false warmth, and Dennis Rader's obsession with control. Each of them feels like a shadow behind her smile. Sam isn't scary because she's unique. She's terrifying because you can look at the darkness in our own world and see where she might perfectly fit within it. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the killers who may have inspired Samantha Strong, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And let me know, which real-life murderer do you think Patrick Horvath pulled from the most? Is there another killer that I might have missed? Again, as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.